shukrani sana kwenu kwa kunitoa mimi aibu.
Na mimi nataka niwahakikishie hapa kwamba hii safari sasa imeanza na tutazidi kutenda.
Kibra ndiyo imekuwa hatua ya kwanza ya mambo ya BBI, kuonyesha kwamba Wakenya wako tayari kwa BBI. BBI itaunganisha Wakenya wote.
Mimi nitaweka Waluhya pamoja, tuwe kwa mambo ya handshake pamoja. Sitaki Waluhya wowote mahali waliko wawe nje ya handshake ile ya Uhuru na Raila Amolo Odinga.
Siasa ya Kibra ndio mwelekeo wa siasa ambayo itakuja ya miaka 50 ya Kenya ama 100. Kama venye tumesema bedroom ya baba ni no go zone, hata kwa wao Ikulu itakuwa no go zone.
Hiyo Kibra ni kionjo. 2022 tutaelekea hiyo njia. Sasa 2022 tutapigia Raila akisimama, mtampigia kura.
Baba amefungia wakora wasiingie bedroom. Sawa sawa. Sasa ile kitu tunataka Uhuru na Raila wafanye, wafungie wakora wasiingie 2022.
Hii salamu ya Kibra. Hivyo ndio tunasalimianga watu hapa Kibra.
Sasa hii kofia mimi nitakaa naye mpaka nisikie mwenyewe ni nani hiyo mwizi ambaye alikuwa anavunja nyumba ya mtu ni nani. Si mnamjua? Si mnamjua?
Lazima kiongozi awe ni kiongozi wa msimamo. Kushinda mnashinda pamoja, mkishindwa mnashindwa pamoja, lakini muwe pamoja.
Right, we want to rope in our panelists who are here with us this morning, and of course also to put this particular editorial cartoon that we just had earlier by Stano. It's all about the Kibra by-election for them to weigh in as well. Allow me to introduce to you, I'd done that before, Richard Onyonka, who's a member of parliament for Kitutu Church South. Also, we do have Dr. James Jikal, who's the member of parliament for Seme. We have also the governor of Kisumu. This is Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. We do have also the senator of West Pokot. This is Samuel Pogisio, and also nominated senator. This is Isaac Mwaura. Let's just begin from the development, and we began with you also, Richard Onyonka. That editorial cartoon, looking at it today, what will be your comment? If we may just have it, Jackson. There you go.
Yeah.
On floor 5, Jackson, if you don't mind. Continue.
Actually,
you can see it. Yes.
I don't see.
There you go.
Yeah, you're talking about that one. I think it depicts the impression and the reality, and that is that again, Prime Minister Raila has basically boxed himself out of the corner that he was, and he has actually managed to, one, make his candidate win, and number two, he has succeeded in making sure that it is now clearly understood that he's the champion. And the picture you see is of Imran Okoth as the trophy that he won. Other than that, I don't see much to it. I just think that it's a true depiction of what actually happened in Kibra.
It could be a trophy, it could be a puppet. So you choose to see the trophy.
That is true, but I don't see anything else that shows me that he's going to be a puppet. But I see the win.
But how do you control a puppet?
Yeah, by pulling the strings using... I think you are overstretching your imagination on this, but you could be right though. Okay. But I think you are overstretching your imagination.
But a big loss for Ford Kenya. You as also a member of Ford Kenya. You can tell us more about Butichi, who was a non-starter in this particular by-election.
Butichi is a very...
246 votes? How much was
Yeah,
it?
that is true. He's a very good candidate. He just was in the wrong race, and I hope he stays in Kibra. We lost big. We tried very much, but we couldn't compete with the two giants. You're talking about Jubilee had tons of money. ODM had tons of mobilization in terms of the youth. It had, I mean, the fact is, Dibal, we were trying our luck to see whether there's an opportunity for us to penetrate and come in as a small party. But it looks like we have to go back to the drawing board.
Okay, you have
Yes.
to go back to the drawing board.
Yes.
Let's hear from Governor Anyang' Nyong'o. When a governor, you became very apolitical. We never saw you, or maybe I never followed the news. I never saw
No, you are right.
Oh,
I mean, unfortunately, I was, during the Kibra election, I was here and there. I didn't manage to go there. But the point is, I'm very proud of my party,
Yes.
ODM. I mean, we were closely following and engaged, involved in other ways. And I think the job done in Kibra is beautiful. I think what political parties should realize, really, that before you go into an election, you should study the constituency very carefully.
Yes.
You should let reason go ahead of emotion, and let party jingoism and your feeling of wrath against another party play a second role. I think the trouble with the way Jubilee went in, you could see it. I mean, Mariga was kind of a rushed candidate. Even the manner in which he went to State House, and given that hat by the president, you could see that there was something missing. And I think this kind of jingoism, feeling that I must go there, I must show something, it's not really good in modern day politics. You see what I mean? I think there's a lot to do. You saw it the other day in, I don't know which place it was, Kentucky or something. Trump going the day before the election, gubernatorial election.
Yes,
and
Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky, and appealing to people. I was in the States then, appealing to people that if you don't like this guy, you know, you'll shame me.
Embarrass me, yes.
Yeah, and it looks as if you were going to cry. I mean, even the public said this man must be desperate, you see. And the public has a way of getting back to that kind of situation, because, I mean, to Kentucky people say, you have not been here with us. You don't know how this governor of yours has been governing us. So coming at the last moment and appealing as if, you know, you're a god, that we must vote for you. I mean, they did exactly the negative the next day. So I think that it is quite clear that ODM has been dominant in Kibra. After all, that is where the Prime Minister was a member of Parliament for a long time. And I remember when we were in Ford, Kenya in 1992, okay, when Raila decided to go and stand in Kibra, and Kimani Rugendo, I think, was also standing there. And we discussed it, and it was very methodical. I mean, there was no hoo-ha about it. Special, I mean, careful training of voters and recruitment of members and make sure they registered. By the time we went to the election, it was quite clear that the registration of voters, the manner in which they had been mobilized, showed a win for us. You see, so I think, and Kibra at that point in time was a very important constituency for us, and it has remained so up to now. So I followed carefully the campaigns and the manner, and I knew that Koth was going to win. And now let me come to the other issue after that. This hoo-ha about who organized violence. To me, I think it's also very.
What is on the front page?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I think that the president started it.
Yes.
But the point is, ironically, a senior member of the deputy president party was photographed in the front of the newspaper. Carrying stones. So, I mean, to the nation, people will learn, if this fellow was carrying stones, how can you outsource violence? I'm just looking at an ordinary citizen. How can you outsource violence to other people?
Violence begets violence.
It's very interesting that for a few days, I think, I think they are flabbergasted about the photo. And all of a sudden, the DP now comes with arms and daggers at ODM accusing it violence. I think the best thing to say is the following. We have IBC. You have security forces. If there was violence, let the relevant institutions of running elections and governance do the homework and tell us who did what. But this idea of seeing Khalwale on the front of the newspapers carrying stones, you know, and then the next day you say somebody else caused violence, it doesn't make sense really, to me.
Maybe Isaac Mwaura will tell us more on that, but because as Jubilee they've taken special umbrage that most of their voters were prevented, you know, to go to the polling stations, as it were. And we saw also members also of Jubilee, so to speak. We've never seen an official, you know, certificate being forwarded to Khalwale, but him carrying stones as well. You want to respond to what is on the front page of a Daily Nation this morning? If we may just have also the copy of a Daily Nation.
I think it's very interesting to see what is happening. It certainly confirms that the 2022 politics are about these two men here, William Ruto and Raila Odinga. And these are the tectonic forces that will inform.
But Raila has not declared that he will be running for 2022.
Whether he will declare or not, I don't trust that he will not be running. And even if he will not be running, he will back somebody anyway. And I'm sure Richard Onyonka, who I was with yesterday in Mwaura, would want it to be Fred Matiang'i. But let me say this. Let me say this, that whatever was witnessed in Kibra was quite telling, because I mean, really, violence, no matter how you look at it, cannot be tolerated. Because I can see now, it's becoming now a question of protecting your votes at whatever cost, including reducing one Boni Khalwale to from a medical doctor to a stone thrower. I think really that is totally unacceptable. And I think even if you support any side, you do not stoop that low. You also need to be careful about your image. Yeah.
So that is a sycophancy, of course, of some of the Jubilee members.
Well, I think it is loyalty, but because there is no loyalometer, it could as well be measured by the number of stones you carry in your hands.
Okay, let's hear from Samuel Pogiso. Good morning, sir.
Morning, and good to be back here. The last picture in my mind, of course, is one of Boni Khalwale as the biggest thing, and it seems to be very skilled at. Actually, not just throwing, but even the carrying. The carrying is very. You see,
the posture.
Ready to throw. Yeah. And very proudly too. I mean, he was very proud of it. But you know, let's congratulate Imran for a good win, and of course Mariga for conceding. Yeah. I mean, these are things that don't happen easily. In our country, when you lose, you disappear quietly, and claim there was some rigging or some violence or something like that. But how come that the candidate himself did not raise those issues? The candidates themselves seem to be okay. So it is the people, maybe the sponsors, who feel very bad about this thing. On Kibra, I really believe that the ODM party has or understands the intricacies of Kibra that the other party that came in did not quite understand, because this is for them, for ODM, this is something that they have more voters. They've always had more voters there, you know that. And so for anyone else to come and claim to undo that would have been a tall order. It needed planning and so on. So voter registration, we're not very sure on the side of Jubilee. The other thing which was very interesting about Kibra is that people turn up at this one venue. And so you always thought you had people, but they are only in this venue. So, you know, if those guys never left, I mean, the guys were there for every candidate. And so it's a very interesting place to have just one ground, called the DC's ground, where you go to. So you cannot measure your strength. So it is the people who know beyond the DC ground that knew exactly what was happening with the dynamics happening in Kibra.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people get frustrated, and the claim of violence, I think, I mean, pictures tell it all. I mean, pictures can tell it all. Sorry, that who was violent and why the violence. I mean, the violence were. But the worst part, and I keep saying this to people of Kibra, is the money which is going to help you.
Yes.
Is not that money that's being given at campaign time.
Yes.
It is the money after the campaign.
After the campaign.
There's a lot of money thrown at people. And we need to congratulate people who resisted the money and continued to vote for their right candidate.
Right. Dr. James Nikal was on the ground from the go-getting to the final, of course.
I was there on 7th from 4 a.m.
You were guarding actually the ballot boxes. We saw some of the legislators just sitting by the ballot boxes, you know, observing.
Very peacefully, but very diligently, guarding them. Basically, let's start from the cartoon. You see, the cartoonist create an impression.
Yes.
And in this case, one may say that looking at Imran as a puppet.
Yes.
But really, the truth is, Imran was a party candidate. Yeah. And the Right Honorable Prime Minister is the leader of the party. Mm-hmm. So whatever other causes are, the party candidate must really align with what the leadership of the party is all about. That's what party democracy is all about. Uh-huh. So one may say he's a puppet, but really the truth is he's a party candidate, there's a party leader, there is party policies and what the party believes in. So what I see there is, well, the party candidate won, and in this case, the Prime Minister in that cartoon represents the party, and Imran is the party candidate. I wouldn't say now it's a puppet. Now, coming to what was happening in Kibra, I think Jubilee made a mistake by actually lifting this contest from being between Imran and the candidate, whichever candidate they picked.
Yes.
Yeah. So that immediately it moved away from the two candidates. Whoever the candidates would have been, it moved away. And if you remember, the DP at one point say they are going to teach the Prime Minister a lesson. At that point, you had gone beyond the two candidates you have in front of you, and you had gone to the party leadership and the party manifesto and what the party stands for. What would you expect? The party must then mobilize itself to protect what is being attacked. And in my view, that is what happened. And as a party, we actually looked at it very carefully. Who do we pick? Does somebody have a history in Kibera? Has he done things in Kibera? Do people in Kibera know him? That is first of all. Then you look at what are the party dynamics, what are the community dynamics within Kibera. And you bring all this together. And basically, that is what we did. And at the end of it, then you want the bigger mobilization by the party, and that is when you see all the allies of the party, whether new or before, came together. So for me, the process was pretty logical from the beginning to the end. And I must congratulate Imran and our party, and also Mariga for doing what most people don't do, to concede defeat. Well, Europe must have rubbed a little bit in him, not just in politics, not just in football, but in politics. Political manners. So I think what happened in Kibera is what was expected. But I'll tell you, as a party, we actually worked on it.
Okay.
Very methodically.
One thing.
Right.
It's very interesting that the DP decided to hype the issue of violence without hyping the issue of money. I think, to me, the use of heavy money in elections is something that should be looked into in this country. I remember at independence, the first independence elections, and indeed elections which followed, even in 1992, when I was competing against Honorable Ndolaya in Kisumu Rural, to get 20,000 in your pocket just to fill your cars to go and campaign was a problem. So you didn't really have money to give to voters. What you did was talk to the voters and appeal to them what you are going to do as an MP for the constituency. And I don't think that, although Kanu had money, that money made much of a difference to the people's perception of what they need to do. Now, in this Kibra case, I was reading in the newspapers that the deputy president's house was turned into a hotel. I mean, really, and it was in the papers. And people saying we go there, it's very generous and so on. That means that money is being used in the process of campaigning to influence voters. Is that constitutional?
Using the state resources as well?
I mean, and it has been open in the papers. Is the IBC looking at these things? Are we going to be able to sanitize our politics in the coming elections such that there is some rules, some guidance, how much money you can use, and for what? Because otherwise, politicians will be impoverished. Trying to stand for election. A good candidate may find it, let me just finish. A good candidate may find it very difficult to contest if money is the in thing, and a party that is committed to using democratic ways of improving our system may also find it difficult. If any Tom, Dick and Harry can come from the Boondocks with a sack of money stolen from the National Youth Service and say I'm standing and sending money all over the place. And in this case, what was happening during the campaigns, this hotel business, was flabbergasting.
But where do we have, just a moment.
Violence. I didn't say anything about violence.
No. We'll come to you because we have to go sequential. Let's hear just from Richard Onyonka. Yes, the issue also of the campaign finance is an act right now, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, but does it make any discernible difference even with the by-election and moving forward?
Absolutely not. But something like Professor Nyong'o has said, something must be done. We can't go on as if there is comfort and it is normal for somebody to spend.
But that something will be the implementation of that act.
Implementation and the, how do I put it, is the effectively making sure that everybody understands the rules and even having the ability to pick the evidence. All right, and actually even creating a scenario where if the IEBC realizes that this is taking place during the campaign period, then they can take some action. The other thing that I saw, you realize this also is related to the money issue. In the UK, the elections are coming after a period of about, is it 4 weeks?
4 weeks, yes.
The Kibra election was stretched out for a period of close to what, 3 months?
3 months, yes, too long.
That's not normal. We must begin to look at these things. What period of time does a by-election get planned for and implemented and the election take place? Number 3, I was in Kibra. I can say here without any fear of contradiction that the people of Kibra are actually intelligent, they're reasonable, they are thinking about issues that affect them directly. And the feeling I have is, and I would hope that ODM as a party, because now you have won the seat, that the party ODM will look for a way on how there must be a blueprint on what is going to be done to Kibra. Kibra the residents can't continue living in squalor. Kibra residents must have, whether it is something that is brought as a pilot program to Parliament where certain funds have to be put into place. And I know Kibra, the problem has never been funds. The problem has been how do you get the community to agree and believe in the promise that if you were to develop the area and bring in capital to try and change Kibra, that they will not be shortchanged. But I think with good public hearings and effective public hearings and engagement, the public would agree for something to be done in Kibra. I was also happy that I saw the bypass which is passing through Kibra. There were standing issues that even when that bypass has been done to about 60 or 70%, there were residents who were having their houses on that bypass. They have not been compensated. These are things that I think Imran Okot will have to deal with as an incoming member of parliament. Finally, I want to mention this because I'm in Fort Kenya and we lost, but we've learned a lot out of it. This is something that I would want to tell Honorable William Ruto. When you pick a sword and you show your enemy your sword, he then figures out how he's going to snatch you the sword and how he's going to protect himself, and you will not vanquish your enemy. William Ruto came in too early. He threatened ODM too early. He took his state house home, converted it into a hotel. People were going to collect money every morning and every evening. It was despicable. He could have done it differently. He didn't have to bring individuals to his home. And in fact, what I'm told is that even our Fort Kenya people and even some of our people from ODM were going there to just collect the money, and it shows. And these are things which a leader must consider seriously. You cannot take a respected residence of a deputy head of state and convert it into a campaign hall where you are dishing state resources and largesse to individuals to try and influence them to vote for or against anybody.
But this will be very serious allegations that you make without any beneficial evidence in that regard.
But it was in the
still,
media.
is it still an innuendo?
Dibal, there were pictures.
There are no pictures of anyone being given money.
No, but the people who came from there told us.
Okay.
The voters were telling us they were getting 1,000 shillings.
There's something I also learned in Kibra, because as a party we were faced with the biggest challenge of big money, which was being given as an indicated. Of course, the laws are there on how you should use the money during campaigns. You should even start accounts. But then we asked, this is big money. What are we going to do? And what Honorable Nyonka said, the people are actually intelligent. And we leave alone the large rallies. We had town hall meetings and we raised the issue. This money is being given. But is it going to change Kibera? What is going to happen afterwards? And what really impressed me, when we were in these town hall meetings, people tell you, since Ken Okoth, the work of Ken Okoth had a lot to do with what happened in Kibera also. Since Ken Okoth came, we saw evidence that Kibera can change. And the bursaries, for example, many women were telling us, my child got bursary, 5,000. I've never got it before. There are roads that have been done there, whether he did them, but the roads are there. There are schools that have come. And people will actually tell us, we are going to vote for Bernard because he worked with his brother. And so we realize that if you actually talk to people in a situation, not the big rallies, in a situation, town hall meeting, explained the issues. People told us, don't worry, the money we are going to take. But we know the difference that Ken Okoth and his brother Imran did. So that was an extremely important issue. There was also the issue of violence. It's not only 2 or 3 Jubilee MPs that went to Kibera. Many others went there. You must ask yourself, how come 1 or 2 people were picked? I went that day several times. It is also the demeanor of the people who get. There are issues of provocation. Violence is wrong. But if you go into a meeting, there are a large number of youth. What you say, how you conduct yourself is extremely important. So how come that only 1 or 2 Jubilee MPs were attacked? Many others were there, they were not attacked. So violence actually is on both sides, like my colleague Bonnie Khalwale. It was very unfortunate what happened. But even if you looked how he conducted himself when the fracas started, he was like he's in it with his colleagues. They were in this game together. What other people would have done, and I saw many people do it. When you see that crowd is charged and they're saying, you go low and say, okay, we want peace, let us just vote and go. They will leave you alone. But if you start charging them and you also start going to pick stones from this.
Right.